we always talk about this Birkie fever, we call it, that people get this fever and they just have to come back every year. So we're getting messages now like, oh, I got to go see the doctor. I'm starting to get my fever.
Hello again, and welcome back to another episode of Wisconsin's Outdoor Explorer podcast. You know, one of the things that I love about Wisconsin is that we are traditional. Our traditions represent who we are and where we came from. One of those traditions is our love for winter events. From snowmobiling to ice fishing, we know how to make the most out of winter. We know how to have fun in winter, and one of those fun traditions is the American Birkebeiner. Since 1973, this cross-country skiing race has had thousands of people, both elite and casual skiers, enjoy the thrill of crossing the finish line of the Birkie. Just a little history lesson for you. I pulled this from the Birkebeiner website, so if you're interested in learning more, I'll have a link to their website. But the Birkebeiner honors and recreates a historic Norwegian event from 1206. It was two warriors called Birkebeiners because of the birch bark leggings they wore. They skied infant Prince Haakon to safety during the Norwegian Civil War. Now, Prince Haakon subsequently became King of Norway, and the Birkebeiner soldiers became a Norwegian symbol of courage, perseverance, and character in the face of adversity. And on this week's podcast, I talked to Ben Popp, Executive Director of the American Birkebeiner Ski Fountain. We talked about the 46th Birkebeiner, which kicks off here on February 20th, and all the events that will take place leading up to the big event. And I think after listening to this podcast, you're going to understand the Birkebeiner connection with the soldiers. It really takes a lot of courage, perseverance, and character to complete this trail. It's a great trail. This was a great interview, and I'm really happy to share it with you. So let's get right into it with Ben Popp. Ben, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
So, Ben, what is your earliest memory of being outdoors?
You know, growing up in northern Wisconsin with a family that enjoyed being outside, skiing, biking, running, hiking, it was actually ski with my parents on, it was most likely a Sunday afternoon, and it was on the Flambeau Hill Ski Trail. It was this little ski trail between Winter, Wisconsin and Phillips, and I think we used to do it a lot when we were younger with other families, and it was very vivid in my memory because it would be like we'd spend all day there, and we'd go skiing and build jumps and build forts and cook hot dogs in the parking lot, and I was just really found enjoyment at a young age just being outside and obviously doing fun stuff like that.
Well, that's great. A lot of times when I ask that question, I always get a lot of summer being outside. I think you might be one of the first ones that actually talked about outside skiing.
Oh, funny. Yeah. Being afforded those experiences when I was really young, it just became part of a lifestyle. And it's funny, fast forward, 47 years and to try and now provide those opportunities for others. It's awesome. Totally love it.
Well, let's talk about those opportunities a little bit. Now, the 46th American Birkebeiner is kicking off here February 20th and goes through the 23rd. Tell me about some of the events that are going to be taking place during those days.
Yeah, it's really a variety, which is awesome. That's what kind of makes it this, I call it the greatest show on snow oftentimes. We have everything from ski joring and Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, different events throughout each of those days. But Thursday is just really one of the crazy days because there's a lot of little events, little meaning anywhere from 100 to 1,000 participants. And it's ski joring where you get harnessed up to your dog and they get to run up and down Main Street because a lot of these events for people that haven't been there are centered around downtown Hayward where we totally snow Main Street, put up the American Birkebeiner International Bridge, and it's really a festive atmosphere. And so the dogs racing up and down Main Street on your skis being harnessed is something to witness because they're going so fast. So that's always fun. So that kicks things off. And then the Barnebirkie and Junior Birkie, Barna meaning, young in Norwegian. So the Barna is really a fun event because there's 3-year-olds up to, 10, 11, 12-year-olds, and they're skiing downtown and, they're excited to get their cookie and hot chocolate when they're done. And that's some pretty neat energy, right? As you can imagine. And the Junior Birkie then is really for the little bit older kids, 12 to up, starting to ski a little bit farther. They want to ski a little faster, and so that's always kind of neat. And the giant ski, which also helps round out the day, is something to behold because it's putting 6 people on one pair of skis. And so, they race just 2 blocks long, head to head. And, it's always like the Forest Service versus the DNR, and they each get, groups, or, the Hayward Hurricanes versus the Spooner Rails. And so it's kind of this fun competition in a bracket format, and the winner, and it's kind of as though sun's going down, and it's a great festive way to sort of bring Thursday to a close. And
you said you bring in snow. Like, how much snow do you bring in to cover that whole street?
Yeah, it's just around 85. Well, it changes every year a little bit. Between 80 and 100 dump trucks of snow. So it's a fair amount. You're covering a city street 5 blocks long. Plus, we have this international bridge that was modeled after one from the early days of the Birkie when it started in 1973 that Tony Wise, the founder of the race, had done. And in homage to people coming from all over the world, he built this bridge for people to ski over. Well, fast forward into the 2000s, to get into downtown Hayward, you actually have to, when you come off Lake Hayward, you have to cross U.S. Highway 63. And it's the main route through town. And so shutting that down is really hard on commerce and traffic and logging trucks and whatnot. So we came up with this harebrained idea to reconstruct the International Bridge, and a local manufacturer, Trussworks. They actually make trusses for houses. We engineered it, and they built now this bridge that is big enough that go put grooming equipment over and piston bullies, so you can drive cars over it. But the skiers ski up and over now Highway 63. We construct the bridge on Monday of Birkie week, and then it's fully functioning cars underneath it, and skiers go up and over the top, and it's really something else.
It's so funny because I can tell the enthusiasm in your voice when you talk about this, that it sounds like it's a lot of work to put this all together, but it sounds like it's worth every minute of it.
Like I said earlier, to be able to afford people these experiences, because a lot of times we hear people that say, wow, I came up to Hayward, I wasn't really sure about this whole skiing thing. I watched it and saw 11,000 people do it. Now I'm in, and it's not just racers, of course. There's people out there 8 hours. And so, there's just really an event for everybody. And then to be inspired to be able to, hey, I got to get up and go ride the Peloton or go for a walk or do those things to stay active year round, because, man, I'm in February going up to northern Wisconsin to try this crazy Birkebeiner thing. I start in this one town, ski through the national forest, and end up in another town, and I'm saving a prince. Not really, but, it really ends up becoming inspiring for a lot of people. And we always talk about this Birkie fever, we call it, that people get this fever and they just have to come back every year. So we're getting messages now like, oh, I got to go see the doctor. I'm starting to get my fever. And, to be able to create this medium for people to get inspired, to be active outdoors in a climate, oftentimes people are like, man, I'm going to Florida, or can't wait till the snow melts. That's pretty awesome. And I think we all take pride and really enjoy doing it.
Well, and that's one of the things I like to say a lot too is the Wisconsinite, we figure out ways to have fun in the wintertime. Winter can be long, it can be bleak, but we always have this nice positive energy that we always seem to be able to figure out how to have a good time, and that's exactly what you guys are doing.
Yeah, it's, Hayward, northern Wisconsin, cable, ice fishing, snowmobiling, all the things we love to do outside, and then add in snowshoeing and skiing, and suddenly, man, there's sort of a ton of activities. And now the skiing thing with the Birkebeiner and the trail is just, it's pretty darn cool. So we're excited to have, it ends up being about 40,000 people that are in town that weekend, which when you realize when you come into town and the sign says 1,800, you realize, do the math there. In fact, we have almost 3,600 volunteer shifts during the Birkie week. And so even that's always a funny thing to tell people, well, we have 3,600 volunteer shifts. We only have 1,800 people. So do the math there. It really is quite a whole community coming together to host the world there.
Yeah, it is. And now let's talk about the big event. Let's talk about the American Birkebeiner. Give everybody a little bit of taste of like who's coming to compete in this event and how many people come each year to compete in this event.
It is fascinating. So we're part of what's called the World Lopet, which is, this series of races from around the world with the whole mission of getting people to travel around the world through skiing. And So that gives it an international flair. This year, I think we have 24 countries representative coming to the Birkebeiner. And it's everything from recent Olympians all the way down to people, like I said, that'll be out there a long time. And that holds true for both our international field as well as our American field, which this year, normally we average 49 to 50 states. And this year we actually only have 48. South Carolina and Delaware have let us down, unfortunately. Last year it was Oklahoma. So, it's never quite the same. We always get Hawaii. We're always good there. But so it's really just people coming from all over the U.S. There's people, this is kind of funny, that actually they'll stop into the race headquarters and say, gosh, I did another cold turkey Birkie. And what a cold turkey Birkie is, in other words, you jumped on your skis for the first time on Birkie Day, and then you don't ski all year long again because you live in Alabama or wherever. And then it's Birkie Day, so you're here and you put on your skis and you do it. So it becomes a tradition for a lot of people. Again, it's not about how fast I'm going to race the race. Certainly there are plenty of people that do want to, they're worried about their time or how fast they're going. But really, it's all about this amazing energy and experience of skiing through the woods. It's really quiet, but then you're surrounded by 11,000 people, so it's not really that quiet. And this real sense of accomplishment. I mean, it's really hard to go ski 35 miles through ups and downs. You climb about 4,500 feet collectively over the event, and so that's not easy. And so to really accomplish something like that is very difficult. And then you get into downtown Hayward, and I've skied the Birkie many times before I started working here. And the feeling of getting on top of the International Bridge and then skiing down Main Street, those last 4 or 5 blocks, it is almost deafening. And I mean, it must be the feeling of, Aaron Rodgers stepping on the field. I mean, because it's just this, people are ringing cowbells and yelling and cheering, and you feel like a rock star. I'm like, oh my gosh, wow. And this is, for me, a little skier, that normally is peaceful off in a state park somewhere. So it's that vibe and excitement and accomplishment. You roll that all up into just this unbelievable festive atmosphere of brat smell in the air and people having beers and walking around and live music. It just becomes this real celebration of winter, and man, it's something else. So this whole idea of the first timers that are really nervous and what's it going to be like, to now we have one man, Ernie St. Germain, who skied every race. He skied every single race. And
wow.
We have what's called the Spirit of 35, which represents the 35 people that did the original Birkie back in 1973. So they're the 35 people that have done the most.
Okay.
And we actually have 35 people that have done 41 or more. And we were just talking about that. Imagine that for 41 years you make this event, through illness or whatever,
Well, that really is a testament to how fun the event is if you're getting people coming back year after year after year to keep doing that same thing, especially if this is the only time of year they put skis on. That really says a lot about the event. So let's talk about the course a little bit. Where does it start? And give everybody a little bit of idea of the course in itself.
So we start in Cable, Wisconsin, which is about 17 miles north of Hayward. Cable is a town of 300, so now we're even smaller. It's where Telemark Resort was, which was Tony Wise's when he started the Birkebeiner. So we start at the American Birkebeiner Trailhead. It's a start line, and you start winding through. Originally, it's some private property, and then you're quickly into Bayfield County land. And the 90% of the course is through public lands, which is just amazing when you think about it, that we're able to have this corridor that gets accessed year-round. It's in public land. And so you leave Cable and you start winding up through some of the hills, and right away you climb within the first 15K up to the high point, which is about 1,800 feet above sea level. And you think, oh, well, it's all downhill from here. But actually then the biggest climbs come from there to Double O, which is the halfway point. And so there's these big rollers, and, they're straight, and so you can kind of see people climbing. It kind of look like ants climbing up, and it really is, the first part is actually the difficult component that I think once you get to Double O, which is the halfway, and it's Double O because it's the county highway Double O that you cross at that point. And people, I think, at that point feel good. You've only gone 21 of the 50K, so you still have 29 left, so not really halfway, but psychologically somehow it plays on like, all right, I've made it to Double O. And along the way, there's actually 7 trailheads that are also aid stations. So year-round, there's a little hut there with solar panels and running water. that, you know, you can park your car and go from a mountain bike or a ski or whatever, that on race day, they get transformed into these aid stations that have anywhere from 50 to 75 volunteers at them. So you get to Double O, and then you keep winding down. You go through an aid station called Gravel Pit, and then onto Mosquito Brook, which is one of the lowest points on the course. Of course, a brook. And Mosquito Brook, you do two significant climbs. One that climbs up out of the brook, and then another one as you get closer to Highway 77. And that gets really difficult, right? Because now you've been going for 35 or 40 kilometers. Your body's tired, so you have these last couple of bigger climbs. But then you get to cross Highway 77, and you're up on this high hill, and you can see downtown Hayward. You still have like 5 or 6 kilometers to go. So that can be a little bit, you know, people talk a lot about, I can see Lake Hayward, I'm almost here. Well, then, unfortunately, you have to go down to Lake Hayward, which is the Nemacolin River. So then you actually cross into a national park, which is kind of cool. And so you go across Lake Hayward and the Nemacolin, and then finally into downtown Hayward. And so it's really a journey through hill and dale, and pretty darn cool to experience it.
Well, it sounds like it. And the way you describe it, it's not an easy task to do. So there is a real sense of accomplishment, I'm sure, when somebody crosses that finish line.
You are absolutely right. And again, it's not impossible by any means. Like I said, people show up from California that put their skis on once. And certainly that would not be what I'd recommend. But all varieties, big, small, tall, you name it. But at the end of the day, when you cross that line, from the winner all the way down to the last person carrying the bronze broom, if you will, sweeping the course, they all, the sense of like, oh my gosh, I just did that. That was really hard. And I think you are really proud of yourself because you persevere through times when it gets really hard, and then you get to the end and you're like, wow. And so it's a pretty amazing feeling. I think it's a big part of why people keep coming back, because it is a real accomplishment.
How unique is this event to Wisconsin and the Midwest?
The cross-country ski culture in the Midwest is unbelievably strong, and probably the strongest in the U.S. The Minnesota High School Ski League puts out 4,000 to 5,000 kids a year. The Wisconsin State High School Championships is actually happening here just this weekend. The ski culture is really, really strong in the Midwest. And then on top of that, add a race of this size and magnitude where people are flying in from all over the world into little northern Wisconsin. It really is something else. The governors declared it American Birkebeiner Week. It really is something that people say, well, why don't you have some more Birkebeiners other places? And there's just something about bringing the whole world to this small little town that just embraces bringing everybody there, as well as then throw in a bunch of, it's going to be hard, it's middle of winter, it can be 20 below, and you mix that all together with a bunch of legend and lore from all the way back to 1206 in Norway, and the fact that it's built on something that somebody started in 1973. Boy, you just add all these little bits of it, and it's just magical, and I don't think repeatable really anywhere else, actually. It's pretty special to have it here, and because of it, the impact that it can have with creating all this infrastructure for year-round recreation and bringing people to Wisconsin and helping drive tourism for our little community, all the way to being a medium to help sport development and get kids outside and provide youth grants. It's I think has a profound effect on northern Wisconsin and really the state and the region, and so that's exciting for sure.
I'm glad you brought that up about being more than just this event a little bit. Talk a little bit about that the Birkebeiner is more than just this week, right?
Well, that's just it. The Birkebeiner, obviously, the ski race is really what it's known for at this point in time. But there's also, a whole variety from the trail run that the Birkebeiner puts on. It's about 1,500 people that do the Birkie Trail Run Festival in the fall. And it's the national championship for the half marathon, which is pretty cool. So events like that, or the Fat Bike Birkie, which is 2 weeks after the Birkie, is the largest fat bike, snow bike race in the world. So one time a year, bikes get to ride on the Birkebeiner Trail in the winter. And so that in and of itself is a spectacle. To the things like, again, having trailhead infrastructure along the trail that you can go out on any given day for a mountain bike ride in the summer or a snowshoe in the winter, whatever it might be, that it really ends up being not only this huge event, but then a bunch of other little events, and then just pure recreation. And I was looking back this week, I think I counted 21 or 23, something like that, events that happened on the Birkebeiner Trail just this winter. Everything, like I said, from the Wisconsin State High School Championships to the Gitchigami Games to the Sealy Hills Classic to the North End Classic to the Pre-Birkie to the, just one after another, which does a variety of things. It provides a bunch of different mediums for people that come up to the northern Wisconsin and be active. It obviously certainly helps drive the economy here and brings in tourism and to helping further the mission of getting people outside and active and hopefully living a healthy, active lifestyle that they enjoy.
Yeah, definitely. So what makes the Birkebeiner so special in your opinion?
That's a great question. And I think it's just a variety of things that kind of get all rolled up into one. I think it starts with this amazing trail that is through the woods and has just a magical feel to it. Then on top of that, the next layer is this community that absolutely embraces bringing people to northern Wisconsin and giving them the time of their life in the middle of winter that they never thought they could ever experience. And then on top of that, you put a group of volunteers that feels like it's their own, that they'll do anything to help give a group of people a good experience. Then on top of that, a great staff of people that feel like, man, we want to do everything we can to put on a great event. Then there's the medium of, okay, then these participants that just live it and breathe it. I mean, they have tattoos, they have stickers, they have license plates. I mean, you name it, they live and breathe and bleed Birkie. Then you add sprinkle in some fans. Then you bring other people just from around the region that want to come spectate. And it ends up being just this unbelievable energy of, wow, we're totally alive outside in northern Wisconsin and embracing it. And it's just this crazy Birkie fever feeling that I just don't even know if there's a tangible thing that you can put your finger on. It's just that one thing, but you add all that together and gosh, at the end of the day, it's something special that I think really can have an impact on people's lives.
And I think that's what makes it so special and so unique for Wisconsin is it kind of epitomizes that Wisconsin spirit of winter of whatever we have to do, we're going to get out there and we're just going to have fun and we're just going to enjoy being out here and being together. I think that's exactly what it means.
Yep, I think you're absolutely right. You really get that sense of, gosh, you know what? We love being outside. We're hardy, and we're also amazingly welcoming and put on. We love having people come to our home, if you will. That we know Wisconsin is the dairy state. We know Wisconsin is a lot of things, but it's also just this great place to come recreate and be active outside. And we love hosting you, so you really get that feeling, and I think that really helps add to that Birkie fever and magic for sure.
If somebody wants to volunteer or somebody wants to compete, can they still do that? And where do they have to go to do that?
Yeah, our website, which is Birkie.com, BIRKIE.com, has all the information for volunteering, for the events. Some of them you can still sign up for, like the Thursday events, the Barca Birkie, Junior Birkie, but the Quartalopit, which is, so the Birkebeiner on Saturday, the Quartalopit is the half race, if you will. It starts at the 00 and goes in, as well as the Prince Hoken starts at Mosquito Brook. That was another one of those 8 stations. So that's a 15-kilometer race. The Quartalopit, which is the half, starting at 00, and the Birkebeiner. Those three are all full. We have, unfortunately, maximums. We can only take so many. Interestingly enough, one of our limiters is downtown and how many we can disperse through it. So
sure.
That gets maxed out and is closed. But the other events you can still register, although they're starting to get pretty full as well. And certainly volunteering, Birkie.com/volunteer, or just the main page. Is, having volunteered as well for the event, it's a crazy fun experience. I mean, you can do everything from working at an aid station to helping hand out bibs to baggage. You got to move 11,000 bags from Cable to Hayward. And so all these really fun experiences. And, people are unbelievably grateful. The skiers are. And it's really a fun way to see the event right up close. You're there. And, we get a lot of groups that come. We do any nonprofit group that comes and is raising money, like a school group or church group that's going on a trip or uniforms. If they're fundraising for something, we'll pay them a small stipend if they're bringing a whole group to volunteer towards their fundraiser. And so we get groups that are trying to raise money to go to Washington, D.C., or they're buying new uniforms. And so then they're all volunteering as a group. And that's pretty cool. So you come into an aid station and you see, 40 basketball players there, in their uniforms that we're raising money for, Spooner High School to go to. And so that kind of stuff is pretty fun. It just adds to more of the character of the event,
Well, Ben, I want to thank you for joining me on the podcast. It sounds like a great event. If you're not competing in it or volunteering, you definitely have to get out there and go watch it. It's going to be a lot of fun for you guys. You're going to have a good winter this year, I think. So again, thanks for joining me on the podcast.
Hey, thanks so much for having me, and we'll save your place on the start line for you, so we'll look forward to seeing you up north.
I want to thank Ben for coming on the show and talking all things Birkebeiner. You could just tell in his voice how enthusiastic he is about this event and how special it really is to Wisconsin and to the skiing community. I'll post all the links in the show notes to the website and the Facebook page, and I just want to say that the American Birkebeiner is something that's really unique to Wisconsin. It's something that every Wisconsinite should experience at least once. I know this is on my bucket list. I have yet to go to one, and I will get to one soon. If I don't get to one this year, it is going to be in my plans for next year. And I hope you put this on your list as one of Wisconsin's outdoor explorers. Hey, if you enjoy this podcast, please share it with somebody. Let's grow Wisconsin's Outdoor Explorer together. Join the Facebook group. Join the conversation about everything outdoors in Wisconsin. If you've got a favorite place to visit, some gear questions, or you just want to share some photos and videos, the Facebook group is a great place to be active member of Wisconsin's Outdoor Explorer. Hey, I'm your host, Jason. Thanks again for joining me, and I'll talk to you again next week. Thanks for listening to the Wisconsin's Outdoor Explorer podcast. For more great information about being an outdoor explorer, visit our website at wisconsinsoutdoorexplorer.com. Be sure to check out the blog page and follow us on social media. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts.